If you want to thrive in work, life, and faith, and are wondering how other women are doing it, then this is for you. Welcome to How She Does It. My name is Marva Smith, and today I have with me a guest, Kim Coleman, who is going to share with us some insights from her own life. This is a real conversation with a real woman who is going to share some real hope. We don't have it all together, but our hope is to be able to share some tips with you, some insights, and to really help you see that you're not alone. So welcome, Kim. I'm so very thrilled to have you. I've known you for many, many years now, and it's such a thrill for me to be able to have you on the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Marva. Thank you for having me. I have seen some of your other shows, and it's really encouraging what you're doing.
Well, I'm really happy to have you, and just really, I know that you have transitioned from corporate America and now working from home for the past 16 years. I mean, some of us have been working from home only because of the pandemic, but you've been doing this for many, many years, Kim. What made you make that transition?
Well, it was my chunky little baby. Initially, when I had my first son, Michael, my intention was to take a year off from my job at Time Inc. and go back when the year was up. But he had me wrapped around his little finger, and I couldn't bear the thought of leaving him full time in the care of someone else. So, on faith, my husband and I decided that I would stay home and we would figure it out. And so that's what happened. I quit my job in corporate America and I haven't looked back.
Wow. I know that you started a professional lifestyle blog, Mom in the City, which, is really blown up in New York. Can you tell us about that? How does it serve women there in New York? And does it even go further afield?
Well, Mom in the City initially started as an offline group. It was a meetup group because at that time in New York, the mom groups weren't diverse. And so I wanted a diverse group of women because that's my life, that's my ministry. It's all nations, all races. And so I had formed Mom in the City as an offline moms group. But then it grew so quickly that it was impossible to have that many moms in a gym or a play gym or anything like that. So I started taking some of the things that I was learning during that stage of life and writing about it. Originally, it was a website, but then I got tired of asking my husband, who is by training a computer programmer, to update my website. And I learned about blogs and it was easy. So Mom in the City went from offline group to website to blog.
Wow, what a story. I know in terms of women, especially in those early years of parenthood, we do need a lot of support. I remember when my son was born too, and just really, hooking up with those mom groups and, having those play dates and those kind of things to really feel like, there were other moms who could relate. And I believe that's a really important aspect of, just being able to connect with other women as well. So, but you've been writing some recipes as well and sharing tips there.
Oh, yes. Mom in the City has evolved over the last 16 years or so. Originally, as I mentioned, it was to connect with moms of preschoolers. And basically at that stage, everyone's kid is going through the same thing. Your potty training, your sleep training, you're doing all of those things. But then as they get older, their experiences change based on their interests and many other things. So as they got older, their story became their own. And I became more of a lifestyle blogger instead of primarily focusing on the kids. And so, as you know, a large part of being a mom is cooking, especially this year. If I hear what's for lunch one more time. But anyway, I used that, and I initially had an offshoot blog called Foodie City Mom, and it went great. I was getting relationships and sponsorships from major food companies like Kraft in general, what is it? I don't know, different ones. And it was great, but eventually I folded it back into Mom in the City when I was just like, you know what? I don't have any more recipes to write. Now, it wasn't true. Eventually, my family wanted new recipes. And so, those are on the blog too. But it's very much so been a lifestyle site the whole time. And depending on what I'm going through in my life, a lot of my readers are going through the same thing. And they're not even all New Yorkers. I have readers from all around the country and other countries, Australia, and all over the place, because there are certain things that we all connect on regarding parenting.
Yeah, exactly. And I think of the entire concept of work-life balance, whether you're working from home or you're working in corporate America, you're working, whatever it is, we all have that sort of, sometimes it's a societal pressure to be able to do all the things, be the mom and be the wife and be, the professional woman. And it can feel like a lot of pressure. Have you experienced that, Kim, working from home as well?
Oh, absolutely. I think work-life balance is a myth. I don't think it's possible. I call it the juggle. And the goal is just to make sure that the most important balls don't fall. And so that's different for every person. For me, my priorities are God, family, faith, and then everything and everyone else. But other people have different priorities. And I think it's for each individual to figure out what their top ones are and make sure that those are taken care of. And everything else works itself out. There are times when it's seasons of heavy work and my family understands that. And then there are times when I just need to focus on my family and work is done off hours. So that's the beauty of being your own boss, is that as long as the work gets done, you have that flexibility. But oh yes, there are definitely times when it's like, there are not enough hours in the day.
Yeah, that's the cry of every woman, I believe. We're always looking for another hour. And sometimes if we had an extra hour, it would be to sleep.
Oh, I'm a big fan of sleep. I'm a big 8 hours person. I do a lot in a day. I need to be energized from sleep.
Yeah, but this concept, as you mentioned, work-life balance being a myth, I totally agree. I think it's a matter of priorities. It's a matter of knowing which priority is most important to you at a given time. And sometimes that varies depending on the season that you're in. Because when you were, with your kids being much younger as toddlers, that looked very different from how it looks now as, being teenagers. So what shift have you had to make over the years as your kids were growing up and you had to then change things around?
Well, I love to plan anyway, but then you realize that every time you make a plan, it's just a loose guide, because then life happens, as 2020 showed all of us. But every few months, I just evaluate where we're at as a family and come up with a loose plan for the next few months. Because, it's constantly changing. Once again, in 2020, my life was very different in 2019. I had my husband and my kids out of the home for most of the time during the school year. This year, I am a remote schooling work from home mom, which is a whole other animal. And so you adjust. But I really believe that with prayer and help from others, you can figure it out. You can figure it out.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned your husband, Reggie. How do you guys balance who does what? Who's responsible for what? Do you have a conversation in the beginning of the week saying, honey, this is what I'm going to do? Or how do you work those things out?
Well, yes. So Sunday nights is usually when we plan out the week. And so we let each other know what is applies to the other person, what will impact the other person. Mm-hmm. So we have a pretty good rhythm with that. But once again, you're constantly having to shift and change those as your reality shifts and change. Like just last night, I was talking to my husband and I said, I'm going to have to reevaluate some boundaries. because they have this habit of coming in the room where I'm working and just having a conversation or asking for help studying for a test. And I'm just like, no, it breaks my concentration. So you need to let me know when you have your breaks so I can schedule my breaks around them. And with my kids, I'm like, no, you can't ask me 15 minutes before. You have to let me know the night before if you need my help with something. So it's a constant negotiation, but I think a lot of times moms don't say what they want or what they need, and then they just get frustrated. But no, you have to express it because you can't expect people to read your mind.
Oh, that's such a good point, because that communication piece is so critical. Many times I expect my husband to know what's going on, coming up in the day, or what I want him to do to help me out. And he's not reading my mind. He's really not. I'm like thinking, you should know by now. You can imagine how well that goes down.
Exactly.
So it really does have to be that communication as to, this is what's going on today, and this is what I need to happen. And, this is where, and how can I help you? Because it's not all about me, obviously. It's that balance of supporting him and, seeing how we can all get what we need to get done. So that's important too. So there's a concept about thriving, Kim. I like to say that we can thrive in all the areas of our lives, but it's really about what's most important to you. Thriving in work and in life and in faith and so on. And maybe not everyone makes those distinctions, but when you hear the word thrive, what is it that comes to mind?
Well, for me, I always have my 5 Fs. I like alliteration and things like that. And so the 5 main areas of my life that I focus on is faith, fitness, family, finances, and fun. And so if those 5 areas are in order, then I feel like I'm thriving. And the reality is it's okay if everything's not at a 10. Like this year, at the beginning of the year, I had 5 different main goals for the year. I really haven't broken down into 12, but that can be a lot for people. So I have 5 main categories that everything falls under. And so the truth of the matter is we were very blessed in 2020, and almost all of the things that I wanted to see happen has happened. And that just means for next year, the one area that I didn't do that I wanted to do, that'll be the first focus. And that way, it all works out. And for me, faith is great. Fitness is okay. Like that's the area that's going to be my focus for 2020. Like I had gotten in this really good habit of working out 5 to 6 times a week, and it was going well. And then I got distracted. And so the thing is, you have to have grace with yourself as well as others and just get back on track. And so that's it.
Yeah. I don't know that we can be hitting 10 in all the areas all the time. And that's okay. If I look at one of my areas, because I look at the wheel of life in terms of different areas, whether it's like you say, faith, finances, I like those F's because now those are really easy to remember. But if I think in terms of, say, fitness, if fitness was a 6, but I know that was because there was so many other things going on at the time, or my health had taken a hit, then I know that, okay, maybe I tried my best in that area, but not that I'm going to beat myself up about it, because I think working through that guilt, really, it has no place in our lives. So it's important to know that there's that balance.
No, absolutely. And I think you have to know how you're made. Like I like goals. I like growth. Like I don't feel like a loser if I don't make every goal. But there are some people who are more hesitant to make goals because they really beat themselves up when they don't hit them. And so I think you have to figure out who you are and what motivates you and what inspires you and build your life around that.
Yeah, I love goals too. And I have to recognize that not everybody does.
Yes. Yes, my poor family. Every year at the end of the year, I'm like, okay, we're going to do our haves, do's, be's, and gives for the next year. So start thinking about it. At this point, they just humor me.
You have a good thing going on. But when it comes to goals, how have you seen God at work in your life, even in the past year, Kim? Because I know not everything you planned in 2020 in January probably came through. So how did God show up?
There are certain things that I'm like, that was just a God thing. And I can give two examples in 2020, one that's a spiritual thing and one that's a thing of this world. And so one of the spiritual things is that my husband's father got baptized this year. And this is something that we've been praying for forever. Well, of course, as long as I've known him. He's an amazing man, full of integrity, and he's just amazing. But God worked it out during this time that he could study the Bible with my husband, our evangelist, and the elder of our church all at the same time through Zoom. And this was God's time, and he softened his heart. He drew him to himself, and he became a disciple. And so that was just amazing. So that was definitely a God thing. And then on the practical day-to-day life, one of my goals for the beginning of the year was to be completely debt-free. Then in February, I had one of my best months in retail. I was like, yes. And then in March, the pandemic hit and the factories shut down that produced the apparel that I sell. And so for a few months, it was not great. And I was like, okay then. Well, there's always 2021. But what's amazing is that I kept doing the budget each month. And then near the end of the year, I was like, wait a minute, I think we're going to hit our goal. I was like, okay, because my husband's a teacher and they owed teachers back pay from a prior contract. And so he was supposed to get that in October or so. But then at the beginning of October, they're like, the teachers aren't getting it. And I was like, oh man, that was going to take us over the hump. We were going to be completely debt free. But then my husband and I, we talked about it. We're like, look, it is what it is. It's fine. We don't have any outstanding debts or anything like that. And we're blessed that we still have income and all of these things. It is what it is. Yeah. Then they decided, okay, we're going to give them half. And I was like, okay, well, that should get us closer to it. I did the budget and I was like, wait a minute, am I leaving something out? We were totally debt free. And I was like, you know what? That's a God thing. But like in one of the worst years financially for us, this prayer was answered. So yes, there are some practical things that you can look back to. There was a lot less spending on certain things this year, but to me, it's a God thing because he allowed it to happen. And so I think things like that, just really looking to see how God is working in your life in big ways and little ways. And just like, thank you, God.
Gosh, that is such an inspiring story, both in terms of your dad, your father-in-law getting baptized, and now with God coming through with your budget and providing for your needs and making it so that now you're debt-free. That is just so amazing. Yeah. Wow, thank you for sharing that, Kim. I know that, many women might be listening to this and saying, I don't have it all together like Kim does. My budget hasn't worked out. And, someone might even be feeling discouraged that she's not exactly where she wants to be. Do you have any words of encouragement for that person right now?
Yeah, keep moving forward. It's kind of like the Nemo, keep swimming, because this is a goal that I've had and we've gotten close, and then something would pop up, braces for the kids, that's another 6,000, and it's okay. As long as you keep moving forward and taking those little steps, you'll get to where you need to be. Mm-hmm. So God's timing and our timing are often not the same. And I believe that we're all waiting for something. I might not be waiting to get out of debt, but there are other things that I'm waiting for now. And so I think as women of faith, especially, we got to learn to be okay with waiting, because we're always waiting for something. But if our hope and our faith is in God and not people or situations, we'll be fine.
Yeah, good advice. Yeah, good advice. So to think back 20 years before Kim, your younger self, what would you tell her? I mean, you have all this knowledge and wisdom had earned, I'm sure, but 20 years ago, what would you tell your younger self?
I think I would say something that I really got a conviction about this year is just dealing with each day's challenges as they come. Yeah, that's it. It makes life so much simpler because a lot of the time, if you're a planner, oftentimes you can also be a worrier. And you can be focused on the future and not fully just appreciate the days and the moments. And I think that would be the biggest thing is just deal with things as they come and everything will work itself out. I mean, there are so many people, none of us imagine 2020 being what it is. I know so many people who have had a tremendous great things happen, but there's also been a lot of loss and grief. I mean, just this week alone, a friend lost a husband, a friend lost a child. And so it's just so important to focus on the things that you have and the people that you have for each day, because tomorrow really is not promised. And one of my favorite scriptures is in Ecclesiastes when it says, enjoy your life with your wife whom you love. And I really take that to heart about enjoying my life with the people I love, doing the things that I love as much as possible and impacting this world. And so I think that if we can just focus on enjoying our lives, this gift that God has given us, then everything will work itself out.
Wow, good stuff, good stuff. I'm gonna have to take some notes on that too. So Kim, final thing, how can people get in touch with you if they want to continue this conversation? What's the best way to do that?
mominthecity.com, that's my home base. If you look on the About page, it'll tell you what I'm currently working on at the moment. I know for 2021, health, parenting, and food are going to be my three main topics. And we have some products and consulting based on those three areas that will be available. But Mom in the City, that's my hub. It always goes back to Mom in the City. So yes, if you want to reach out to me, you can email me. My email is on Mom in the City. It's kcoleman@mominthecity.com. I love helping and inspiring other moms to enjoy their lives, to have more fun, and to simplify things, because I think the world is crazy, but that doesn't mean our lives have to be.
Yes.
And that's the thing this year. People are like, well, how are you doing? I'm like, well, the world is crazy, but I'm good. Thank God.
Yes. Wow. So don't be surprised if you have a lot of people reaching out and saying, help.
Yes, no, this is a new reality. And I think one of the things that I love about having an online presence is that I have access to so many people who are brilliant in their fields. When we learned about the remote schooling happening in September, I mean, early in the summer, that it was going to happen for September, I was overwhelmed in my mind. I'm like, how am I going to juggle all of this? How am I going to be who I need to be for my husband, who's a teacher, for my kids who are in middle school and high school? How am I going to get any work done? All of these thoughts. And so I did a 12-week series on remote schooling, and I was able to interview therapists and organizers and professionals, all these people who had experience in different aspects of what makes up being a successful remote schooler. And by the end of the series, I felt more at peace. And I think that's the thing, is that you have to figure out as much as you can and make the decisions that lead to peace.
Yeah. And you were able to experience that peace for yourself and be able to also share it with someone else.
Absolutely. Absolutely. My oldest son, he's so funny, because a lot of the information that was shared with the different interviews that I had with therapists, it relates with not just the moms or people who have kids remote schooling, there was also couples relationship issues and things like that. And so my son will hear me mentioning some of the tools and stuff to other people who we mentor and stuff, and he goes, "Oh, so you're a therapist now, huh?" No, I'm not a therapist. I just play one online. No, I don't play one. I interview them so that we can share their hard-won knowledge.
Exactly. You just get to pass it on.
Exactly.
Yes. Well, Kim, this has been so fun. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today, to share your insights and what you've been learning along the way and your journey. It's been so inspirational, and I just want to encourage you to continue doing what you're doing, continue to be an inspiration to other women, and just to really shine your light.
Oh, thank you, Marva. And I definitely send that back to you. I love how you are showing other people, other women, that no one has it all together, but you know what? We can figure it out. And that was our whole thing about remote schooling, figuring it out. And it's going well. Thank God.
Yes, thank God. So if you want to see other interviews like this, go ahead and follow me on Facebook at Marva T. Smith so that you'll know when the next one is going to drop. Until then, continue to thrive.